You're listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast, a Texas Tech athletics podcast where food and sports clash at the goal line. Here are your hosts, Spencer and Michael.
All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 23 Personnel Podcast. I am your host, Spencer, joined by Michael. Michael, what's up, man?
Good evening, everyone in West Texas and those that wished they were. We're excited. We're excited to continue talking about Texas Tech football, right?
Sure.
We're 5-2, Spencer. I mean, really, we've come. I think I've come a long way since Saturday night. We're 5-2, 3-1 in conference play. We're at the choose your own adventure portion of the season, where you can turn to page 415 and lose the rest of your games, or you can turn to page 310 and have a much better go of it. You know, maybe go 4-1, maybe go 5-0. I don't know.
I choosing a different adventure than you, Michael.
410 pages is way too long for a choose your own adventure book, by the way.
I don't think any of those Goosebumps were that long.
No, I think if you stacked all of the choose your own adventure books together, they would not be 410 pages.
Yeah, they were fun as a kid.
They were.
Oh my gosh.
I got so mad when they didn't count for they didn't count as a book, because but I read it. Yeah, but you died of dysentery halfway through. You read like 14 pages out of this book. Oh, well, still counts.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. Oh, man.
I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit deeper. But I'm more of the mindset now that, like, the cracks were always there. Winning covered those up. Now they may be breaking open. I'm concerned, Michael. You don't win another game.
What?
I know. And I know, like, how excited and how not ambitious, but optimistic I was. And all I can think of now is, like, shame on me for changing and believing that was actually a thing. Because go back and look at how you won week 1, how you lost week 2, the circumstances and all the bounces it took to win weeks 4, 5, and 6. This is the same team. You just had, more bounces go against you, but nothing changed about this team. This is who you've been. You got lucky, and then you got unlucky. Maybe this is regression back to what you would normally look like. Like, maybe you should have lost against Arizona State and Cincinnati and Arizona. And you really, really, Michael, should be 2-5 right now.
We don't have to do this. We don't have to do that. Texas Tech still won those games.
Yeah, no, and they will forever always count as wins in the record book. You can't go back and change anything. You can't say, well, like, if something changed. No, it is what it is. It's how it played out. You will have always beaten Arizona State, Arizona, and Cincinnati, regardless of how the rest of their seasons play out. You have always lost to Washington State and Baylor. You will always have snuck out against Arizona, Abilene Christian, ACU. So I'm more of in the camp of it's his recency bias. Like, I'm still fairly upset about the outcome and how it played out on Saturday. In the sense that, like, there were lots of positive breaks that had to go your way for you to win the games that you did win.
You just happen to have a linebacker play out of his mind on the road. That just happened to need to happen. How many times can I say happen?
Did he has he done that before or since? I mean, I get it's only been one game since. So
Yeah, we're not saying he's not a good player. It's just that's what it took was an otherworldly performance from a linebacker to
and
win you a football game.
he's
You can't
good.
count on that very often.
I'm not saying Rodriguez is not good.
Oh gosh, no. No.
You did have to get a sack, forced fumble, and a deflection that ended in an interception to be in position for that one. I don't want to throw them under the bus, but I think we've seen that PFF stat floating around this week about opponents passing success over the middle, targeting your linebackers. If you haven't, it's not good. Granted, I don't know the responsibilities of them in this scheme. I do know I've seen a lot of Ben Roberts with his back turned and getting burned. And that's not Jacob Rodriguez, but I know it was unusual to see him pressuring the quarterback against Arizona and it working. Anyways, I'm just saying my dauber is down. I am a prisoner of the moment. I'm also I'm so I hate to do it personally, but it still happens to Spencer the person to compare to what other people have and say why can't I have that? Michael, how many teams have stacked success? How many teams have gone on to put teams away? How many teams have had nice things, have gone 5-1 into a bye week, and then continue to play well? How many teams have faced a team that they should have beaten by 2 touchdowns and then beaten them by 2 touchdowns? Why can't we have that? That's all I'm saying.
It would be nice.
Would be nice.
Yeah, of Dwayne's here in the chat
Mm-hmm.
on our live stream. And we stream these live on Tuesday nights, 9:15-ish, for those of you who are listening later on the YouTube. So check those out if you want to join us. But Dwayne saying, I'm still so sad. Sad emoji. Sorry, Dwayne. Why does Texas Tech football control my mental health? I'm weak. I should be punished. I think we are being punished, but I don't know if it's being punished, if that's just par for the course. I think this is the typical Tech fan experience over the last many moons. But like I started out, we're still 5-2, guys.
Yeah, no, we're one win away from bowl
5-2,
eligibility.
playing the Horned Frauds, which you mentioned pass defense earlier. Does it concern you that TCU just happens to be first in the Big 12 in passing offense?
Very much so.
Okay, I don't mean to skip ahead, but
no, you know what?
I noticed that today because that was for some reason I was floored by that, and they also don't know how to run the ball. But prediction: they'll figure out how to run the ball this weekend.
They also are bad at giving up explosive runs, and this may be unfair to the Texas Tech offense and to Tahj Brooks. They're probably going to figure that out because Tahj Brooks is not an explosive runner. But I'm sure that'll be a thing that we'll talk about on Saturday. It's they contained Tahj Brooks for 4.2 yards per carry. It took them 30 carries to get to 100 yards or something. Or we had to take Brooks off the field and go 5 wide again, just because we're playing from behind. We are expecting potentially, possibly a guest, so we're going to skip soccer and other stickball, softball specifically. But we're going to jump into football. The only Baylor recap I want to do, Michael, is just go through some of the post game press conference comments.
I'm good with that.
We'll do injury update. We'll just go and do it now. Duda Banks out for the season with his knee. Hate to see that. Now they keep talking about it, and they're probably trying to spin it as any PR agency would, and that it provides opportunities for more young guys to get on the field and to prove that they're ready for their step up for their position within the team. Losing a defensive tackle, like, it doesn't help. The defensive front is already so depleted, has been hammered so strongly this year. Dre McRae listed as questionable. Sterling Porsche rolled his ankle. McGuire said he was more on the hopeful side that Porsche would be back, but they were talking about if it's not Porsche, it'll be Fatig will be helping out in that offensive line rotation. Bryce Ramirez lower leg, and then defensive back Marcus Ramon Edwards head. McRae's also ahead. So there's that. Post game comments. Granted, it's been longer than 24 hours, but McGuire said they had 24 hours to feel sorry for themselves and then to get over it. Said the film is the mirror. Got to look at the game film and learn some things about ourselves. And then today, like they reinforce a lot of the initial comments they made. But on Saturday said we weren't physical, we didn't finish our runs, we didn't finish our blocks, and we didn't have any big hits. Going into halftime on the broadcast halftime interview, McGuire said special teams. He touched on that again Saturday, and then Monday clarified and said, what did he say? All 17 points of Baylor's first half points were set up by special teams mistakes. You had the short kick, which ended in a touchdown. You had the punt return that was brought back to the one. Your defense held them. No, that was a touchdown. It was the short field off of the muffed kick that ended in a field goal. But all 17 of those points came because of special teams errors. So much so that 10 of those 17, Baylor only had to go a combined 6 yards to score touchdowns. So it's no bueno.
I know I didn't put that together last time. I knew after we watched the game. Of course, we don't have a whole lot of time to process it, but I knew that the 10 points came from it. But yeah, sure, Washington's big run that was a touchdown that got called back that cost Duda Banks his season was set up by a short punt or a short. Yeah, I think it was a short punt, the shanked one. So yeah, that's a good point. I did not consider that.
And then there was like the interesting comments that McGuire said about the weird energy. He said pregame, he told him to take a breath. That he said there was a weird energy. But then like you want to compare that with like, okay, he kind of told them to calm down to then see the team come out with the energy they did. It's like, it's a little bit of an overcorrection.
Well, but they came out and got a stop. The defense got a stop right after halftime. So scored, and then just the wheels done fell off.
Yeah. All right, we're going to pause football talk there. Shelby from Seeing Scarlet has joined us. Thank you, Shelby, for staying up extra late. No.
We just finished our live, so I just popped over.
You were doing your own production. You are there on the East Coast hanging out with us a little bit late. Shelby has joined us to supplement Michael's discussion on
y'all usually cover it, so I'm happy to help, but y'all do a good job.
Well, we always defer to you. That's typically what I do is I run through what happened very briefly from a non-soccer ball knower, and then always say check out Seeing Scarlet because they actually know what they're
Appreciate
talking
it.
about.
I love that people. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna give myself credit. I feel like I'm learning the game pretty well, but covered soccer until last year when we started Seeing Scarlet. I just watched it, so I'm learning as we go. But I would not call myself an expert by any means. But I am a pretty well. I would say an expert on the team, though. I know the players really well because we cover them. But yeah, I don't know if you already talked about them or what do y'all wanting to know?
We paused. We jumped ahead of our normal segments to talk football to
Okay,
let the soccer discussion happen with you present. So yeah, they are in position to tie up a regular season conference championship this weekend, Friday night.
correct.
Um, they
In my eye.
they
Not crying, I promise.
won their two most recent games, Michael, that you had set us up for last week. Last Thursday at West Virginia, beat them 1-0, and then
Big one.
at Cincinnati 3-0, 3-0.
Yeah, West Virginia had kind of jockeyed for first place here and there in the Big 12, and I think I was a little concerned going into that road trip, Shelby, because the road record was not that great this year. Of course, they played really good competition against Utah State and Penn State, and TCU. So those were, some of their two losses and the one draw. But yeah, to go 2-0 on a road, uh, especially when you need those wins. I mean, how big was that?
Yeah, that was big. Yeah, I mean, I guess they haven't been great on the, I don't know. I would argue this team's a pretty good road team historically, but I get what you're saying. The beginning of the year was tough. They didn't have Macy. They had just lost Sam. So Penn State, you can kind of throw out the door. It's just 2 days before that they lost Sam Cartwright, their All-American kind of superstar, and so they had to regroup their whole team. And you're asking to do that on the road. Macy Blackburn still wasn't playing. Kylie Barr wasn't playing. She still has not played. Kylie hasn't played all year and obviously isn't at this point. So, yeah, that was a little different against top 5 team. Trying to regroup on the fly was tough. But actually, this team has now won 16 Big 12 road, or not one or tied 16 straight Big 12 road games in a row, dating back to 2021. Their last loss in a Big 12 game on the road was to West Virginia. So, yes, I was a little worried about it too. I thought we could win. I thought we would win, but I wasn't convinced, as I am usually when we're at home against it. If West Virginia was at home, I was like, yeah, we got that with our home crowd. But they typically have good crowds. It was a little cold, so their crowd wasn't as big as usual. But yeah, that was a good team. Like they went out and beat up Colorado on Sunday. They beat Colorado 2-0 right after playing us on Sunday. They're 7-2-1 in the Big 12 right now. They're right behind us in the Big 12 standings, us and TCU. They're going to be a postseason team. They might even host a game in the postseason with where they are. I talked about it on our show last week. If y'all watch, West Virginia is always good at soccer. They've made the tournament 22 out of the last 24 years. They've had the same coach for 29 years. Like that's a program. We don't play a lot of teams that are similar to us in the standpoint of they're a program where they've had a coach forever. And that's why Tom Stone and his Texas Tech team is so good in the way that they can overcome injuries in a year like this where they've lost an All-American, an All-Big 12 player, a couple of role players, might have lost another one on Sunday. We'll find out. And they just kind of keep piecing it together. It's because they have that program type mentality that some other teams on campus are working towards getting, as y'all have probably talked about. Soccer has
Mm-hmm.
that because they've had the same coach for 18 years. West Virginia has that as well. So yeah, it was a tough game. 1-0 win on a PK. Taylor Strzelecki, who's had a breakout year, was huge in that game. She was everywhere. She was defending. She's a forward, but she was our main defender on set pieces against their 6-footer that scores a lot of their corner kicks. Taylor was right there, kind of marking her in the box all game. They had 6 early corners, and we didn't let them score off of any of those. And that's what they do is they scored a lot of set piece goals. And once we survived that, we kind of just fought through it. Taylor earned a PK. on a tough like kind of just fought through contact in the box. They took her to the ground. She got back up and almost made the goal anyway, but they had already called the PK, and then Peyton Parsons, who has taken those for us all year, calmly stepped up and hit it in. And then that was in the first half. Second half, we get called for a foul in the box, which I thought was bullshit. Pardon my French, but Macy Blackburn got called for a foul in the box. She tackled the girl, but she got the ball first. To me, it was a clean tackle, but in a game where they had already called a PK against the other team, in soccer, refs kind of tend to be looking for any chance to even the score a little bit on PKs, give the other team one, and that was their chance. But Faith Wynn blocked a PK, which is hard to do. That was one of the most clutch moments you will see in the Texas Tech sports season for this year. We're just barely getting started, but mark it down. That was a huge moment, and she blocked it, and that was kind of the game from there. We had a few more chances, but a huge game. That was a postseason type opponent on the road. I think it does give you confidence for them because they had kind of lost to Penn State and those other people earlier in the year, and that was kind of like, hey, yeah, we have fully regrouped, y'all. We have fully regrouped, and we can go on the road and beat a really good team on the road. So that was huge.
Yeah, I was. I mean, yeah, like I said, Penn State was good. It's not like I was super worried, but I thought, man, just going on the road to West Virginia is going to be tough, no matter
Yeah, I don't
what.
blame you.
And as far as this weekend, not this weekend, but Friday night, this will be the second, I believe, maybe the third, but at least the second Friday game for the Red
Correct.
Raiders. And we bought tickets, so we're going to go to this one too. It's just so much easier when it's not a school night. When you have
That's true.
a
Yeah.
little one, they get a little bit too amped. It's hard to get them down when you get home from a soccer game,
Fair.
and or they fall asleep in the car. And anyway, just turns
I get
into
it. Yeah.
yeah.
That's tough. Yeah.
But we're super excited. We're going to be there. We'll be in attendance to cheer them on versus
Nice.
BYU.
Get
And
there get there early if you want a seat, because
yes,
the
and a
goal is
parking spot.
they're trying to. We just had Tyler, who's a student ambassador for the marketing team there, on the show, just that I just got off the live with, and they're trying to break the attendance record. They're trying to get over 3,000 people, and 3,000 people cannot fit in the stands at John Walker. So if you don't get there early, you will be standing room, which I prefer. I love to stand on the fence line at John Walker. I feel like you're right on the action, but your daughter might not prefer that. So
She's well, okay. I don't know. I think the first game I took her to 2 or 3 years ago, and she was, obviously younger because that's how age works. She agreed to sit in the stands with me the first half, and then she was like, "Dad, I kind of want to go play around," and
okay,
because there's a bunch of kids playing around the grass, and I was like, that's fine. You're a 5 year old or you're four or whatever it was at the time. I was like, that's totally understandable. But apparently, that's just become so much the habit now that the second half is almost always spent down there. So I'm hanging around on the fence watching the
there
game,
you go.
checking on her and seeing where she is, and she's over there somewhere, and we're okay, we're good. But I wanted to check with you. I think I understand how this works, but
Yeah,
I'm not entirely sure. So Tech's currently in first place with TCU.
correct.
Both teams are 8-0 with 2 draws. They each have 26 points. TCU doesn't have an easy game on Friday either. They're
They
playing fourth
don't.
place Oklahoma State on Friday in Stillwater, and so they are on the road. Uh, I wanted to confirm this. I actually have this in our notes. Confirm with Shelby. So
Oh
if
no.
Tech if Tech wins, um, and TCU ties or loses, Tech will win the regular season Big 12
Correct. Yeah.
championship and be the number 1 seed in the tournament.
Correct. Yeah. And the way it works in soccer is you get 3 points for a win and 1 point for a draw. So if we win, we'll be at 29, and they would be at 27 even if they draw. So we would win the Big 12 championship that way.
But if Tech ties and TCU loses,
We would still win.
we would still win. So
Yes,
there's a
because we would
couple
get one
scenarios
point
there.
for the tie. So we would win 27-26 on their overall score. So there's multiple ways to win it outright, but if we both win, we would be co-champions, just like you see in basketball. I think there was co-champs last year in men's basketball with Houston and whoever it was. It would be the same thing, but then it would go to tiebreaker scenario for the Big 12 seeding. Naturally, our head-to-head game was also a draw.
Yes.
So then it would go to point differential, which TCU would, I would assume, handily have the point differential because they've been on a crazy in the Big 12 play. If you stretch it out over full season, which I don't think is how it works. I think unfortunately it looks just like conference. I think we're pretty evenly matched on like per match points. But if you look just at conference, TCU has been putting up a lot of goals lately. And so while they give up some goals as well, their defense is not as good as ours. Their offense has just been murdering people of late. So I think they would win pretty handily on goal differential. So if we're tied, go co-champs, we would be the 2 seed of the Big 12 tournament in that scenario. There's also the scenario where we both lose and we still celebrate a Big 12 championship at John Walker, which I was just talking about that with Tyler. I don't know how our team would handle that because they're so competitive. And when they say, I don't know if you've heard Tom Stone's interview after the last game, but when he says they don't talk about Big 12 championships, they generally do not talk about winning Big 12 championships. They talk about playing well in November so they can win a national championship. But now that it's at the end of the year, if they get to the last game of the season, okay, we're going to talk about it and we're going to go win a Big 12 championship. But if they lose the game and they still win, like, I don't know how this team, because they're so competitive and they're so focused on like true postseason, if they'll even celebrate. Like, the coaches will probably have to make them do it. Like, I don't know. Like, they should celebrate. I'm not like the journey of this team. I don't care if they lose because BYU is very good. I don't care if they lose and TCU loses. If they're Big 12 champs, nobody was giving this team a chance to be Big 12 champions after they lost Sam Courtright, after Kylie Barr was clearly not going to play this year, after Macy didn't play until 5 games in. That's 2 All-Americans and an All Big 12 player. Like, no one thought that this team, whose 2 leading goal scorers had a combined 1 goal coming into the year, no one thought that they were going to be here, right? So they should celebrate it no matter what. But I don't know if they would. I don't know how that'll go. It'll be interesting. So I can't foresee that scenario playing out, but it could. Both of us have tough opponents. So, but yeah, there's a lot of ways this could go. But they play at the same time, so our
Yeah.
team's going to be fully focused on just beating BYU, which won't be easy because they're very offensively good.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about. If you had a little bit of insight on them, I have not looked them up. All aside from that, they are fifth in the Big 12. They are 5-2 and 3 in conference play. So, I mean, they have
Yeah.
done really well in the conference. They took care of Houston at home last night, and they'll be headed this way. I'm assuming they're traveling Thursday, but are they, like you said? So they seem kind of to be more offensive oriented.
Yeah, so if people aren't aware of BYU as a soccer program, they're one of the better soccer programs in the country. They were in the College Cup last year, which is the Final Four. They almost made the national championship game last year. They made the national championship game 2 years ago in 20, or I guess 3 years ago now, 2021. They're one of the better programs in the country. It's been a little bit of a transition year for them, not unlike us, which is why it's impressive that we have made it to 8-0-2. But they graduate a lot of seniors, a couple of pro players. They also have the trickiness of mission trips and all those things that they have to deal with year to year at BYU. But they recruit. They have some of the best talent you're going to see in college soccer on that team every single year. It's a program in that way. They have some of the best offensive talent. They play beautiful soccer. They will live. I'm talking live in your 18 if you allow them. And allows probably not the word. No one's allowing BYU to do that. They're just capable of it. They lead the Big 12 in corners. I think they have like 92. This is off the head when I looked at it last time. And I think the next closest team is like West Virginia, who we just played and had quite a few corners as well, like at 68. Like, that's how big of a wide margin they lead in corner kicks. They're just really good at getting down there and getting those opportunities. And then they're really good at finishing them. Now, this year, while their record's not what they want it to be in the Big 12, is because their defense has been a little bit shakier than normal. Their offense has been there, but they've been giving up goals much more than they want to. Like, they had a 3-3 draw 2 games ago with Baylor at home. So they scored 3, but they gave up 3. And so that's this game where our team is statistically on field, eye test, one of the best defensive teams in the conference, maybe the country, now that they've got it figured out. I will say again, Chloe Soto got hurt early in the Sunday game. She's not one of our quote unquote she's a starter. She plays 90 minutes. She's a great defender, a midfielder. It is going to be a bit of a task to say whoever's getting thrown out there in her place to figure that out on the fly against BYU. But the person that came in the second half of Sunday did pretty well. So we'll see. But she is a little bit of a loss if she is out. I have no idea the status. But all things relative, when you don't take that into account, we've been one of the best defensive teams in the country. We held West Virginia scoreless for the first time all Big 12, only the second time all year. So it's not out of the question that you hold BYU scoreless, but that would be super impressive. So I think maybe you're going to need 2 goals to score, which we're capable of doing. But we're kind of opposite teams in that way. I think they're metrically 10th in the nation by metrics, not NCAA stats. But when you factor in strength of schedule, 10th in the nation offensively, and we're maybe 11th in the nation defensively, 10th or something like that when you factor in metrics. And then offensively, we're like 20th, and defensively, they're like 35th. So that's kind of the matchup you're getting there. So we're going to need someone to step up. I think if we can survive the first 20 minutes, that's always my thing with our team this year. That's where we've gotten sniped in our 2 losses, is both teams, Penn State and Utah State, scored 2 goals in the first 20 minutes of those games. Macy wasn't there for those, so take that into account. As good as Macy is as an offensive player, she is, by label, a defender. You look her up on the roster, it says defender next to her name, even though people know her as an offensive creator. But getting her back will help. But yeah, I think if we can survive the first 20, kind of ease into it in front of a big crowd, I'll feel pretty good about it. But yeah, I don't know if you can bank on shutting them out. If we shut out BYU, that's, especially if we're down Soto, that's big time stuff. Like
Well,
that
and
would be big.
I don't know how I didn't put this together, Shelby, but Texas Tech is allowed, I think if my math is right, 2 goals in all of Big 12 play.
Correct. 2 goals. And one of them was an absolute banger. Colorado goal. No one's stopping that. The other one, we basically handed it to Kansas State and said, "Hey, kick it into your goal." Like, it was, they would tell you that. That's why I like this team. They don't mind you saying that because it's the truth. And they probably said it after the game. Like, I think maybe our goalkeeper kicked it to them in the box and they kicked it. It was a weird, credit Kansas State. They were pressing up, but it was a weird, like, what just happened moment. And they scored. And then we scored 30 seconds later to take the lead back. And so it's like it didn't happen. But those are our 2 goals allowed in Big 12. But the BYU will be the best offense we've played since TCU. And we did hold TCU. Looking back, holding TCU to a draw is as impressive as it will be if we hold BYU to a draw. If you pull up TCU's results, they're putting 4. I think they scored 8 goals on their road trip this weekend.
Oh gosh.
4 goals in each game, maybe. Like, they're offensively very talented. So we're going to need that level of intensity. But when you play that level of intensity, you're exhausted on the offensive end. Like we saw, we didn't score against TCU either. So it's kind of a catch-22, but we'll see. I trust Tom Stone teams to show up prepared. They'll be ready to go. Survive the first 20 and then win is kind of always my plan with this team.
I wanted to ask you too. I know that you've been probably talking for like an hour and a half, so we don't want to keep you too long, Shelby.
It's fine. If it's all for the cause, I'm good for it.
Okay, well, let me remind everybody: get out to the Walker this Friday. The game is at 7. If you can't make it for whatever reason, it will be on ESPN Plus.
It's true.
The tickets are, I believe, $10 for youth, $12 for adults. So you do get a little bit of a discount for I think those 12 and under. And it's a great time. It's a lot of fun. It's really intense D1 athletes playing their tails off, and it's a lot of fun to watch.
It'll be good soccer.
Yes,
for sure. It'll be a good soccer game. These are some of the best players in the country for both teams. There's pro players on both teams. They have one of the leading goal scorers in the conference on their team, so it'll be good. But yeah, for sure. Get there early too, because BYU travels very well. There's going to be a lot of blue in that stadium. I just don't want it to be too much.
Okay. We'll try to take up some seats. Maybe they'll have to stand.
They're really nice. They might stand up and give it to us. I don't know.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
We'll stand. We'll stand. Yeah. It's fine.
No, I'm carrying a bag of apples. It's fine. I'll just stand here. No, you take my seat, please.
Yeah.
I brought the ice cream.
Yeah.
I did want to ask you though, just while we have you.
Go for it.
Lady Raiders. They are kicking off in, I believe, Is it?
Less than 2 weeks.
Yeah, less than 2 weeks. It's 13 days, isn't it? I have a countdown in here somewhere. All right, so their first game is going to be. Hang on, let me
Is it the
scroll down.
4th or 3rd, something
Yes,
like that?
yes, Monday, November 4th versus Incarnate Word. Uh, a lot of local areas are out of school that day, so those of you,
Oh,
and we're one of them, and so we're really going to try to get there. We do have season tickets for the Lady Raiders this year. Very excited about that.
it's a smart investment because of what
It
might happen
is.
next year. I'm just putting that out there.
I'm with you. That
Yep.
was very intentional.
Yeah.
But I know they had the media days today. I didn't know if you had the chance to watch them
I did.
and see if anything kind of jumped out of what they said. I know that they sent 3 players there. I know Jazz was there and Moppin and man, who was
Jordan Merritt.
Merritt. Merritt. For some reason, I have trouble remembering Merritt's name, and for some reason, I also thought she was going to. She was a one and done here, like she had exhausted her eligibility.
Oh yeah, no, she
And so
had
I was
two.
so thrilled over the summer. Like I started seeing the Adidas promos and stuff. I was like, oh, wait, she's coming
Yeah,
back.
I
So
think she
that's
could.
how out of touch I can be sometimes. I was like, oh man, she was awesome. I can't. I wish we got her more than 1 year. Well, we did.
We
So
did, yeah.
good.
Well, there was some question on if she'd use both years when we got her or not, but she decided to use her next year, so that was good. But yeah, I think quietly Jordan Merritt could have a really good year this year because Jordan Merritt was a former 5-star recruit. We asked her to play a center last year because we had so many injuries, and she's more of a guard than she is a big, really, in a lot of ways. But she's just 6'3", so well, I think she'll tell you she's 6'1", but she's listed at 6'3". And so I think she'll be more of a 3-4 this year, and I think she could be really good. So yeah, she's gonna have a good year. I'm excited for her to get to play more of her natural spot. Same thing for Bailey Maupin. She was forced to play point guard last year, which she did really good for someone that had never played point guard. But that's just how good of a player she is. But she's a natural scoring guard, so she'll get to go back to doing that because we brought in Danae Fritz from Iowa State, who has a chance to run point this year. And then Jazzy was the most improved player in the Big 12 last year, scoring wise. She doubled her scoring production from her freshman to her sophomore year. So, yeah, those three, not a surprise. They were the ones that were there. What jumped out, I mean, Gerlich kind of hit the same stuff that I've been hearing from people about practice. So it was good to hear it from her directly that this has been the best off season of any team that she's had as far as workouts. When you look at videos and pictures, you can see that they just look fitter, they look stronger. So that's good. They've had a great summer. She talked a lot about chemistry, which is made me happy because I'm a big believer in that in sports. That's a very big reason why soccer is so good and why they are able to overcome the injuries and the road, all this stuff. They're able to do that because they're so close and they have a culture and they have really good chemistry. Basketball is trying to build that. They're a team. They're not a program yet. They're trying to become a program. And she talked a lot about that, which I like to hear. So that's the biggest thing that jumped out was that she said this chemistry is great, that practices are very competitive. And even Jazzy in one of her interviews talked about how they're they're very competitive this year in practice, and they're learning how to like take criticism from their teammates, and they're like fine with it. Like they want them to like tell me what's wrong, and they're not taking it personally, and they're like, hey, we're gonna go head to head at each other, go hard at each other, but then on game day it's us 15 against them, and that's kind of what you need, and you have to have good chemistry. I don't know if it matters more in women's sports or men's sports, like I don't know, but if you don't have good chemistry, it's going to be tough, especially to win on the road. So I think that was my biggest thing. And then she talked about the transfers, and they've been really doing really good. So that's good to hear. But yeah, I was happy to hear that chemistry is going well and that practices are going well. And it, knock on wood, it sounds like health is there so far, which is farther than we made it last year. We had already
Yes.
lost 2 players for the season by this time
Yes.
last year. So
That's right. I remember seeing.
progress is progress, I suppose.
Yes, I remember seeing. Was it the player from UTEP
Yeah, she never
who?
played for us.
Yeah,
Now she plays for Arizona State. We
right. I
lost
remember seeing her.
her
She
in
was in like a
August.
boot. Yes, or not a
Yep.
boot. It was one of those scooter things when they were introducing the team, and I was like, wait a minute, we haven't even school hasn't
Yeah,
even
yeah.
even started, and yeah, she was out.
She
I
blew
felt
that in
awful for that.
a practice, a scrimmage or something in August, and then blew her ACL. And then JoJo Nawari tore her ACL on the opening day of practice when all the media was there and everything. It was lovely.
Oh my gosh.
And now JoJo's at Colorado and Jazzion's at Arizona State. So we'll get to. They never actually played for Texas Tech. They were injured the whole time they were here, and now we'll get to play against them. But weirdness.
Well,
But yeah, I thought as far as a media day can go well, I thought it went
yeah,
well. They said the
yeah,
right things.
yeah, and the chemistry, I think, I it's a little bit different as with most sports, but it seems like with at least with the men's basketball team, the roster has just completely changed every year. I know NIL and there's a lot of
Hmm.
factors at play that is the result of that, but it seems like the women's roster it's definitely changed a lot too. I'm not saying it hasn't, but there's been a good core of 4 or 5 uh, Lady Raiders who are kind of sticking around through most of these.
Hmm.
And do you think that that's contributing a little bit to the chemistry aspect, or just kind
Yeah,
of having some longevity, having people like Jazz and Moppin and Win and a bunch of these girls just stick together. I mean, I really think that's been a great factor for them.
yeah. I mean, it's what I was talking about with soccer. I mean, football's trying to do the same thing. Like people don't want to hear that, but it takes time to build a program. I would say Texas Tech, this current modern version of Lady Raiders, are still just a team. They're not quite yet a program. Like you talk about soccer and to be able to overcome the crazy injuries and all that. And to get there, you do kind of have to have some stabilizing forces. Yeah, they brought in a ton of NIL transfers as well. There's big time transfers. There's starters. Danae Fritz is going to be a huge player for this year, and she's in her first year. Jalen Bristow is going to be a huge player for this team this year, and she's going to be her first year as a Lady Raider as a transfer. But you have Bailey Maupin and Jazz Shavers and Kyla Freeland, who were kind of your statistical leaders in almost every category last year as sophomores. They were both recruited here or started here as freshmen, and they've come through. So I think it's that culture piece. If you're trying to build a program, you need at least some small, even if it's a small core of
Yes,
players
yeah,
that can carry that culture into the next offseason so the coaches aren't having to reteach it to a whole group every year, which is what they kind of tried to do last year when they lost all those seniors, and it just didn't go the way they wanted it to. And after the injuries, it's hard to do that on the fly during the season. And once the losing started, they couldn't get off that train. Injuries happened, but then the chemistry and all that. But this year, they're hopeful because of that core, because of that chemistry, because of the transfers they brought in. That yeah, they're starting to build that kind of program mentality is the goal. That's what they're hoping. But I agree, you need some of that. It's a weird world, but you need some sort of stabilizing core if you really want to win a championship. I think you can get by if everything goes perfectly, no one gets injured, everyone hits their ceiling, you might win a championship here or there playing that game of bringing 10 transfers every year. But it's not going to lead to consistent success, which is what they're trying to build. So yeah, we're getting there. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Bailey and Jazzy aren't youngins anymore. They're
right.
they're juniors. They're old. They're the captains on the team now. So, but yeah, I agree. It's hopefully going to be a big factor, and they seem to have grown up a lot over the off season. How they're speaking and stuff. We'll see.
Yeah, that's tough to do. I can't imagine being 21 and someone shoving a microphone in my face at something like that, or
God,
20.
Jazz Shavers, especially, she's so well spoken. We interviewed her last year before the season, and she was only a sophomore then. Although she's already graduated college, by the way. She's in grad school right now, and she's only a
Wow.
junior because she's a redshirt junior because she redshirted a year. But still, she's 1 year older than Bailey is. But still, she's a college student, and she was so well spoken in that interview with us. I was like, oh my gosh, it's crazy. You know, she's even more so. They're
I was
super
on the I
impressive.
was on the 6-year plan for my degree, so
Yeah,
hats off to playing D1 basketball and being
yeah.
on degree
Going to
number 2 or
class,
whatever right now.
academic all Big 12. I think both of them are some sort of academic honors too. It's craziness.
Well, Spencer, I didn't want to hog all the time, but I may have. Uh, I did you have any other questions for Shelby? And I know Shelby, it's 11 o'clock your time. We'll let you go soon, but I didn't want to. I know I've just pretty much shut Spencer down over there, so I
No,
wanted to give him a
I'll
chance to
answer
speak.
whatever y'all got. I'm happy to answer it, but whatever.
No, of the two of us, Michael is definitely the one that has his finger more on the pulse of the women's
Soccer.
sports on campus. So I was gonna step back, let y'all have that conversation because I don't I haven't I
We
haven't.
got to get you into it. You know, gotta get got. Do
That's
you
fair.
live in Lubbock?
I do, yeah, we
Oh,
both do.
you got to go to the
We
soccer game
probably
on Friday. There you go.
we're probably like 2 or 3
Deal.
miles apart, Michael and
Deal.
I.
Yeah, come on, Spencer.
I don't know if that'll work.
See, he has 3 kids in his defense. You know, it's a
No,
little
yeah,
bit
it's
different
tough.
getting out of the house
Logistics.
Yeah.
there.
Um, yeah, I don't know where I was gonna go with that. No, I have nothing else to add to that conversation or to ask. I think y'all nailed it there.
I do have something to ask though.
Go for it.
Please.
So we're switching gears completely. Shelby, is Texas Tech football going to be okay?
I think in the future, yeah. I'm very, if they watch our show, like, I'm just very comfortable with what Texas Tech football is. I don't, like, I've said it, they're not a program yet. They're just a team that's, like, trying to figure out how to play good football consistently. They haven't done that in years. So, like, I don't know why people go into these seasons with such huge expectations every year.
Right.
Like, I just want to see them get better, and I'm tired of us, like, pitchforking and firing a coach every 4 years. That's never going to work. I was off. Matt Wells needed to be done. There was no momentum. He wasn't recruiting well. Nothing good was happening. I feel like there's enough good with Joey McGuire and Blanchard and what they're doing, like behind the scenes, that if he's still growing up as a coach, and if he ever figures out like what he actually wants his culture and his brand and all that to be, and all that stuff comes together, I think if you give him 10 years, he'll have a freaking program at Texas Tech, like you see at these other schools that do that. But yeah, I'm just very comfortable with who they are. They should beat TCU. They shouldn't have done a clunker like they did against Baylor, but you're in year 3.
Yeah.
Tom Stone is a freaking legend. Go back and look at stuff that happened to Texas Tech soccer in year 3, and now they're one of the best programs in the country. Like, I know people don't want to hear that, but we're Texas Tech, right? We have NIL, but it's not as big of an advantage as people seem to think it is, because everybody has NIL. Like, it's going to take time to build a program. That's where I'm at with it. So if they believe Joey's the guy, be patient, hold him accountable. But I don't know why we go into every season thinking like we're Alabama and expected to win a national championship. We haven't competed for a Big 12 championship since 2008.
Yeah, and even then, it was a weird 3-way tie thing, and
yeah, I mean, I'd take it.
Yeah,
I would take it, but like I don't know. I just like I'm pretty comfortable with who they are, so I'm pretty patient with it. I mean, Baylor game was upsetting.
Oh, it's
like
terrible.
I don't understand how we quit in the second half. Like, that was demoralizing, but I think I don't know what happened exactly. Like, we just kind of fell apart. I don't think the injuries are helping them. That's that whole program versus team. They're not at a level where they can overcome injuries in that way, because they don't just have studs, especially on the defensive line, to bring in there, that they'll be okay. So it's just going to take time, is my opinion on it. And if they feel like he's the guy, I like Joey McGuire. I like his intangibles about him. He definitely needs to, figure out his secret sauce a little bit, but I feel like he can build a program, but fans are just going to have to be patient. But I feel like they should beat TCU. But I felt like they should have beaten Baylor too. But that's what happens. You lose games you shouldn't lose when you're trying to build a program. It just is what it is.
And I had to remind Spencer right when we started recording, like, we're still 5-2. We're 5-2, and we've been 5-2 like 3 times since I've been alive, and this is one of them. We're 3-1 in conference play.
That's it. This is it.
This
man.
is not.
Everyone's like jumping
terrible.
off a cliff. And then also, I said this on Seeing Scarlet, and people were like laughing at me, but it's the truth. College football is a real sport now.
Yeah.
We could be freaking 8 and whatever that would be, 4, and win the Big 12 and still be in the playoff. Right? It's a real sport now. You don't have to rely on polls and all that stuff to get a chance. Like, if you win the Big 12, you could still get in there. So there's still a chance. Like, the season's not over. I love college football, but I used to hate it because I'm like, this is stupid. You lose one game and your season's over. You're playing for a bowl game. Like, it's so silly. So now you still have plenty to play for. There's no reason they can't get in there. Now, I don't know how the playoff would go, but they could get in there. Like, people need to change their mindsets. It's kind of like basketball. You're in the rebuilding phase. Just try to make the tournament. You're kind of like, okay, cool. If you get in the playoff, great. Then what happens? But I don't know. So that's where I'm at with it. Is it the season's not over? The defense. The other thing, I don't know if y'all talked about this. Hopefully, I'm not talking about y'all when I say this. So I apologize. I am. Why is everyone still complaining about the offense every week when our defense is going up like 800 yards and 70 points? If we're scoring 30 points a game, I don't care if we're not scoring every drive. 30 points a game should win you games.
Yeah.
Like, our fan base is so diluted because of the air raid days did they think we have to score on every drive? And I'm like, that's not how football works.
You get a
Like, it's
stop.
just-
You could get a stop.
you
You
could
could let
just
Baylor
stop
not
somebody.
score 5 in a
Yeah.
row last week. You could let them not just manifest a 100-yard rusher on 10 carries. I mean, there's a there's a lot of different ways to win a football game. You don't have to score
Yeah.
45 to do it. And in Big 12 play right now, I think we have eclipsed. We're on the opposite end of it now. I think Texas Tech is scoring 34 points a game, but allowing 36, something like
Ooh,
that.
yeah, that's not
It's
gonna
like
get it done.
it's not going to work. It's not going to work
Yeah,
too well.
and I know they have a lot of injuries, and so like that's why I'm like I kind of get it, but like also the blown assignments is where I get annoyed. I don't
Oh,
really
man.
like if you just get beat, it's like cool, but like when you're running zone and clearly the rest of the team's in man or something, you're just like, what are we doing? Like that's the stuff that can't happen. But if we're just not good enough, I get it. Sometimes you're just not good enough, but
Well, there was
I don't know.
on all those blown plays in the second half against Baylor. I don't even know if there's anyone in position. That there was no
Yeah,
one around. It wasn't
something
like it was a missed tackle. It was just, where are they? Are they
something
here?
that concerned me before the game that DeRuiter said that I remember making note of in a press conference was because of Baylor's receivers, they're so good across the board. And they're like, yeah, we're not going to be able to just double one guy this game. We're going to have to play good team defense. But if you look at our games, the games where we very struggled defensively, it's been that. Like these games where we've been able to just everybody on one receiver, like the Arizona guy, we've been pretty good. But when we're like having to play true team, rely on everybody to do their job defense, it hasn't turned out well. So when he said that before the game, I was like, oh, great. So we'll see how this goes. I didn't think it was going to turn out that bad though, so we'll see. We'll see. But that's my take on football. I'm
Well,
pretty patient about it. As long as there's
I love it.
progress, I can live with it. They can't allow that to happen again though. So also get rid of the tire would be great. I'm over it.
Kick the tire to the curb.
Yeah. Find something
All
else.
right.
Yeah. So complaining about the offense, that's me. That's me.
They
and
could definitely be better. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just like,
It's okay. So context for me, I've shared it so many times. I did not grow up a Texas Tech fan. I didn't really grow up watching college sports. So when I came out as a freshman, 2007, like I didn't know what I was walking into, and like that was
wow.
like we were about to peak, right? Like that was normal for me. Expectation baseline was 2007, 2008, 2009. I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah, talk about lucky.
And then to follow up with like offense was still fairly good under Tuberville. Defense fell off a cliff. And it stayed that way for a decade. So like defense being bad has just been normal for me.
No, I get
It's
it.
just
I get it.
the accepted place. Like our offense, we've had superstars. It's never been a problem to score points at Texas Tech. Defense is like I've just kind of written it off. Like I get that this year's defense is still 10 points better per game than it has ever been like under Kingsbury. Like
Oh God, don't even.
10 points per game better. And yet I'm like, our offense just needs to score more points, man.
Yeah. Patrick Mahomes come back. I just think college football's caught up with the air raid stuff a little bit.
And
So
I'm not like it has to be air raid. Like I just want more points.
yeah,
I don't
I'm
care how you do
here
it.
for that. I was someone was reading a stat off. I don't. Y'all can pull it up, but I want to say like is it us, Oklahoma State and West Virginia, like leading the conference in scoring? And then look at where we are in the standings. Like, so the best teams that are not the teams in the conference that are scoring the most points for what it's worth. So
Yeah, and that
I just
very
feel
much
like those days are, but we can be better. Like there's frustrating moments, but I just don't. I think it's just tough to expect. Maybe it's because I watch so much soccer. Like you're not out there scoring every time you get in the box. Like sometimes the defense makes a play. You know what I mean? Like the Patrick Mahomes days, the defenses weren't making money plays. Like he was just throwing 70-yard bombs, and now these defenses have figured it out. And yeah, I mean, sure, Barron could make some superhero throws, and the interception was tough, but I thought other than that, he was pretty good. But yeah, so I get it though. I got to Texas Tech at 2000. I transferred into Texas Tech in 2009, and I was not a Texas Tech fan before then either. So I missed all the fun. It was tough times after that. Maybe it's my fault. But yeah,
Don't
we
ever
had
blame yourself for
sticks
that.
like Steven Sheffield. He was putting
Oh
up
my gosh.
numbers. It was
It
fun.
was fun to watch.
Offense is so much more fun. I'm here with you. I just think, unfortunately, I don't know if those. I feel like those days are gone.
Spencer,
even
I think
like
Shelby's onto something though. I think if you watched more soccer,
I tell
because
people that all the time.
I have started watching a lot more because my 7-year-old plays too, and so I've been watching it a lot more over the last 2 or 3 years. And I'm telling you that TCU draw was one of the most intense sporting
Best
things
sporting events
I've
I've
seen
watched in a
all
long
year.
time.
I mean, it was a draw, but it was still just incredible. So I think
Yeah,
that's it, Spencer. You just gotta
you
gotta
have to learn because
get onto the football.
soccer. I say it all the time in our show. Like I feel like I'm getting better at like terminology and stuff. I've watched soccer. I've never religiously sat down and like covered and talked about soccer until doing Seeing Scarlet, and now I love it because I'm like, this is so great. Like you learn to love the small things, right? You have to learn all the plays in the middle of the field and all the stops and all the things and all the people that are doing the moves that don't to lead to scores are just as impressive. And I feel like in football, I'm a huge football fan, but we can dilute our brains to be like all those plays, that great run, that great catch, all these things that led to the 40, and then we got stopped, don't matter because we didn't score. I'm like, well, you still changed the field position, so you still had 4 enough good plays to change the field position battle, just like in soccer, you pin them deep, all those things. So there is something to learn there, but I get it's not a game for everybody. But so only thing I'll say for people that aren't into soccer is you're not into soccer because you're focusing on the wrong things. You have to focus on everything in soccer. And that TCU game will be one of the best sporting events you've watched all year because it really was and very intense.
It was
Like
very intense.
bodies were flying everywhere. There was better
Yes.
tackling, harder hits in that game than I've seen than I think I saw in Baylor.
Yeah,
From us.
second half definitely
Yeah,
harder
there was a lot
hitting
more
than the
fight
second half.
in that game than
Yeah.
that. But
Ace Steve says my last year as a student was the 2011-2012 season. So his last home game that he attended was the 66-6 blowout to Oklahoma State, which I was also there.
I was there. That was
Um,
wasn't that
I was there too.
Parents' Day or Family Day?
I don't remember
Or
specifically.
if it was the last home game, it had to at least been senior day.
One of the Oklahoma State blowouts was Family Day or whatever it's called. My whole family was there, and we lost like 70 something to maybe it was that. It was bad.
There was another
embarrassing.
one though. There was a Mahomes one that was 70 something to 50 something.
I wasn't there for that. I think mine was
53.
that one.
70 to 53. I remember that because you had a 17-point lead and then lost the game by 17.
Yeah.
That was a fun 5-touchdown swing.
Not as bad as the Alan Bowman Texas game.
Oh, that all
Orange
happened
Downs.
so fast.
Yeah. Life comes at you fast sometimes.
Yeah. See, but that's the thing is like some fans think that that's a better way to lose than like if we played like good defense all game and lost by like a touchdown or something because our offense wasn't scoring. But I'm like, I feel like that's a better way to lose. Like losing like 10-7 to me would be a better football game probably if it wasn't just horrible stuff. It was truly good defense than losing because you choke it away because your defense sucks so bad.
So
2 scores. It's just tough.
So the Gauchos have been trying to get the Big Ten Rob nickname trending. Are we going to have a Big Ten Shelby here?
I hate Big Ten football though because I feel like the Big Ten just plays bad offense. I don't necessarily think it's good defense. Most of the games you watch, it's just they just turn around and hand it to someone and say run into
Let's
everybody
try that
over and over. There's no unique like in the Big 12. The Big 12 is so far ahead of everybody. People hate on the Big 12. Like we were ahead of everybody on offense, and then they figured out the offense and now all the NFL teams have stolen the Iowa State defense. They all run that Iowa State defense that stopped Patrick Mahomes. Go look at they all run that cloud defense in the NFL now to stop those quarterbacks. And now we're having to learn how to run the ball and play with tight ends now. While the SEC can't stop anybody and they're playing 60 to 50 games. It's just a circle of life. But the Big Ten just forever plays 10-7 because they don't know how to play offense. I don't.
That is
you know what's great though? You know what's great about the SEC and their offensive revival? They don't catch the same. They don't play defense.
They don't catch the flag. It's like they're just so good.
Because like it was like, in the Big 12, it was like they don't play defense in the Big 12. They score 100 points a game, and it's just they can't stop anybody. Well, now that the SEC is doing it, it's like their offenses are so good.
Yeah,
they're just so good.
The narratives are crazy. Which I mean, I don't know. It's just annoying. Either
so
way.
you mentioned so Texas Tech scoring offense first in the Big 12. Texas Tech scoring defense, 16th in the Big 12.
That
So
seems
first
not
and
good.
last. No.
This
Next,
is why this is why I like soccer. They're first in defense and second in offense. This is where
Yeah.
I like to. This is where I like to be.
the
Someday
next,
in year 18 of Joey McGuire, that's where we're gonna be.
I don't know if he's gonna get 18 years, Shelby. Next closest scoring defense, Oklahoma State, giving up 8 fewer points.
Mm.
So Texas Tech at 16 is giving up 36 points per game. Oklahoma State at 15 is giving up 28 points per game.
I'd take 28.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
that's
if
what it
you're-
was last year, and I just about had a conniption. I mean, like I couldn't believe how good it was last
They
year.
were so good. Yeah.
Yes.
If we had last year's defense, we might be undefeated right now.
Yeah. The Big 12
probably.
is that close.
So,
Yeah.
Shelby, we don't want to keep you. You are more
Yeah,
than
I'll-
welcome to stay with us. We're gonna
No,
we're
yeah,
gonna
I don't want
continue
to
to hammer through football.
steal y'all's thing. I'm sure you got things to talk about. So I appreciate it. See y'all. Oh, I won't be there because I live in North Carolina. Spoiler. But I'll be watching from home. Y'all go be there in my place if you can. If
I
y'all are
will.
listening. So
Absolutely.
yeah, hold it down. You and your daughter. Get us the dub.
Yes.
Celebrate with confetti. Sneak some tortillas in. Do it.
Oh, that's a good idea.
The one last story. The parents from last year's team snuck tortillas into the game at Iowa State. So you saw that video where they were throwing tortillas in the Big 12 championship celebration last year at Iowa State's field.
Nice.
That's because the parents snuck them in. So I'm thinking the parents are probably going to do the same if for this one, just in case they get it done. So tortillas should be flying at the end of the game.
As they should. As they
Fingers
should.
crossed.
Well,
All right.
Shelby, if they don't know where to find you, let them know where they can
Oh,
hear
right. How
your production,
dare they.
watch your production. And otherwise, thanks for joining.
Seeing Scarlet at Seeing Scarlet _ on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all the places. But our show is will live stream on Twitter and Facebook, but is always on YouTube every week. Sometimes it's Monday, sometimes it's Tuesday. We just kind of figure it out as we go, to be honest. But it's there every week talking about it, and we'll shift to basketball here soon when they get going. But yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah, very soon. 2 weeks, 13 days, I believe.
Yeah.
For
We should
women,
have
and
some
then-
interviews coming up. We'll see if we get them organized when Sibby gets back to life.
Nice. Well,
So-
we'll look forward to that. Thanks for joining us, Shelby.
Thanks, Shelby.
Thanks for having me. See y'all. Rack 'em.
Yeah, see you around. All right. That was we were blessed to have her as long as we did. That was a lot longer than I thought she'd be able to spend with us. Great
Yeah, I
conversation.
know. I mean, because she's been like recording for the last hour and a half before she hopped on with us. So I
Yeah.
really appreciate her sticking around and giving us a lot of insight, especially on the upcoming soccer match versus BYU. Y'all have heard me talk soccer every week. It's probably embarrassing, but I am interested in it, and I'm trying to learn. But I had not looked up anything about BYU aside from how high they are up in the Big 12 standings, and they are a team not to overlook. I knew that much.
I was following along the statistical comments, and I was going to jump in, but like I didn't want to interrupt Trump. So BYU second in the Big 12 in scoring offense, but like 10th in scoring defense. So
Yeah.
you have a shot there to score on them. We mentioned Texas Tech scoring defense first in Big 12, only giving up 2 Big 12 goals, 9 on the season, which is wild that 4 of those came in one match, like on game 1.
Yeah, that Penn State match, and like Shelby said, 2 of them were they were within the first 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
They just got out ahead early.
So there's that. And then Oklahoma State and TCU are playing. Oklahoma State second in the Big 12 in defense. So TCU strong offense versus a strong defense as well. So we'll see how those matchups fare on not Wednesday, on Friday. See how the Big 12 regular season title shakes out. All right. Football, TCU. I don't really want to go back over. I feel like
we're good.
Everything was bad.
It was all bad. Where everyone's frustrated, we're all frustrated. Throw to a tight end, please.
Throw to a tight end, not have a tight end throw it. That's
Oh
where I'm
yeah,
at.
yeah. Sometimes I say things backwards.
No, you said it. You said it correctly. I
know.
meant to be clear that.
Thank you.
I mean, as good as the 1-for-1 for a touchdown was, I'd rather have Morton throw the ball. Also, can we not, like, at a very pivotal time of the game, like, go hurry up and let's not like score and leave an opposing offense 2 minutes to score before half, that they're going to get the ball back to start the second half. That'd be great. I wish people would ask that in press conference, like, hey, like, what were you thinking, Kitley, to hurry up and call trick plays going in before half when you weren't going to get the ball back? So, anyways, Tahj, let's do that. Let's do the Tahj time tracker update. 25 carries, 125 yards this past weekend. That puts him 404 yards away from taking over first place. Nope, just kidding. 279 yards to take over first place. So he's close.
Very close.
Which means these numbers are going to be skewed. I did not update them in the correct order. So if he's got 279 to go in 5 games, he needs 56 yards per game, not 81. And 279, 5.4. He needs 52 carries to do it. So those are 2 very heavy utilization games, but he could do it in 2 games. 210 yards away from taking over second place, James Gray. 279 from Byron Hanspar, not 404. Wait. This math isn't mathing.
What's
this math
going
isn't
on
mathing.
here?
I don't know. It's messed up. Don't disregard every number I just said. None of
Okay.
that's right, except for he went 25 carries for 125 yards and a touchdown this past weekend.
Yeah,
That's about all
fix
that we
it.
can.
We'll fix it in post.
We'll fix it in post. Let's see if the only thing I have confidence in is that he ran for 125 yards last weekend. Did we really get beat that bad? Net success rates? Oh yeah, we were top quartile, top third, and disparities between net success rates on the bad end. So yeah, it was bad. Did you? I didn't even catch it in the game, probably because I was over like with a bunch of family. Did you even catch John Carlos Miller playing on defense? I didn't.
On defense?
Yeah.
No,
Defensive
absolutely
end.
not.
He was in there for some rush packages.
We are down bad. No, I did not. Did not catch that.
Well, and I don't think it was like, hey, we need somebody in there. There was definitely some of that, but it was we need somebody in there. Also, he had shown some, like, he had the body type for it, and then like had shown some interest and capability in the spring, but because he was brand new to campus, they like, well, we need like your primary position is tight end. We need you learning the offense and getting those reps. So they couldn't take him away from that to teach him defensive end, but they repped it more in the bye week, and then in this past week, they're going to get him more into that, but as much as they can, as he's still primarily a tight end. So there's that. John Carlos Miller, tight end, defensive end, extraordinary.
Quickly on the tight ends, I know we're trying not to go over Baylor too much, so this is more of a Big 12 as a body of work. So in the Discord, there's a mailbag on the Gambling Gauchos Discord, which you can be a part of. If you go to patreon.com/Gambling Gauchos, I think, I'm not even sure if that's right, but I don't want to steal from their mailbag, but there was one question just basically asking, where are we doing with our tight ends anymore on this offense? And the answer is not much.
I don't know.
It's run blocking, it's throwing touchdowns, it's taking direct snaps, but it sure ain't receptions. So far on the year, there have been 25 total receptions among the 3 tight ends, Conyers, Miller, and Tharp. Miller/edge rusher/defensive lineman.
And there's 3 of them, and we played 7 games.
Yep. So there's, out of 183 receptions so far among all Texas Tech receivers, 14% have been caught by tight ends. And
they're on the field every play.
Yes. And I'm questioning let me go back to this. I think there have only been 8 receptions in Big 12 play. So 4 games. Each of these guys have caught either 3 or 2 passes. And so, I don't know what we're doing. I feel like I ask this question every year on the tight ends. I have sort of an affinity for it because the one year I played football, I was technically a tight end, even though I was buried on the depth chart. But you know, I like seeing the tall large guys that aren't quite as large as the offensive linemen run around with the football.
I mean,
I
hey,
get
that's
that.
us.
It brings me joy.
That's kind of why we are named the way that we're named.
Yeah,
The
we're
podcast and production.
we are pro tight
I'm.
end, pro running back, pro loaded backfield. That is us.
I mean,
To the 23 Personnel Podcast.
I'm more of a tight end build now than I was when we started this, but you know, I mean, I'm not 6'9". Let's clear that air right now. All right, going into the game, last thing on Baylor, we both had blowouts for Texas Tech. We were wrong. 41 or 44 to 27 or 24. Yeah, that was bad. Right. TCU preview. I'm just gonna tell I am not confident whatsoever.
I get the feeling.
S&P Plus has Texas Tech at 62, TCU at 38. I did enjoy this little shot at TCU that McGuire took in the press conference yesterday, Monday. He said he would love to see lots of red in the stands, understands it may be difficult with the way that TCU does things, but it's like, yeah. So I enjoyed that, but we said we'd love to see that. Other things that he talked about, he said CJ Baskerville approached him and said, "Hey, like you should send more pressure and let us DBs like put more on us." I was like, I don't know if I love that. Like more pressure, yes, please. But also as a DB saying like, give us more pass responsibilities. Like, I'm not confident in anybody's ability, but bringing pressure is more likely to disrupt TCU and the opposing offenses than sitting back in coverage. So there's that. McGuire said Hoover will absolutely pick us apart if we allow him to sit in the pocket. So there you go. DeRuiter said they thought they could cover better if they had 3 down linemen. They played with a lot of 3 down linemen this week, more so than they have. Thought they could cover better. They just weren't getting enough pressure up front to allow that to happen. And then, when they were getting pressure, they got some pressure. The coverage then broke down. So like he mentioned one play specifically. I don't know if it's DeRuiter or McGuire. He said one of the guys was absolutely going to sack the quarterback this weekend, Robertson, but the back end pass coverage did not come over to cover the running back quickly enough. So it was a dump down, check down, dump off throw to the running back because of the pressure. And then he breaks out and picks up lots of yards because the pass coverage wasn't there. But you were there to hit him and get a sack, and you just couldn't do it.
Does this explain allowing 255 yards on the ground?
No.
Okay.
Actually doesn't. He talked about being out of place and trying to be too perfect, which I thought was interesting. They brought that up. And McGuire's response to that is like perfection, according to him and his staff, perfection comes pre-snap. So being in the right spot with the right reads. And then after the ball is snapped, it's going to be effort and falling back on your coaching and then being a football player. He said that pressure to be perfect kind of snowballed when there was that string of non-complimentary football there in the third quarter where Baylor scored, your offense didn't. And he's like that combination hasn't happened a lot this year where like one team, like one of the units doesn't follow up what the other unit did well. or doesn't pick up the other unit. He said, like, I want to get into it and find those numbers, but like it's been rare this year that like your defense didn't get a stop, your offense goes out, does poorly, and then your defense does poorly again. Like that's rare. And it happened, and then it just snowballed.
Yeah,
I was like,
that's fair because in Arizona, the exact opposite happened. Or what he described happened. The offense just went. They couldn't move the ball at all. I think 4 drives in a row, ran 11 plays, whatever it was. But the defense may have only allowed 1 field goal or something during that stretch. Like they really held up their end of it. Yeah.
yeah. The other thing DeRuiter mentioned towards the end of his time is that he was asked about the on-field communication, and one, it was like, yeah, he talked about the green dot helmet thing. It's like, yeah, that's working out. That really hasn't changed much. He didn't mention in the bowl game their communications didn't cut off until the snap of the ball, where now it cuts off 15 seconds before, so they were able to continue to call out like their alerts and their on-field reads. And that's where they're having issues this year, is that the guys that are responsible for making that call changes based on personnel and based on their responsibilities in the play. So it's like, even if it's the same personnel on the field, based on their call or what the defense is called, will kind of determine who's supposed to make out some of those calls on the field, whether there's a blitz or they're passing off coverage assignments or whatever it could be. So that's not being done not effectively, consistently. He said sometimes it's coming too late, and that the players that are supposed to hear it aren't adjusting, or they don't have enough time to adjust to that call. Sometimes the player that's making that call is actually not doing it loud enough, so like they're just not being heard, or two, the wrong call is being made. So like we're having issues
Oh my
across all of
God.
that. It's like on
Just
top
spin
of
just spin the crap wheel, and that's what you're gonna get.
well, and also he said like there are plenty of times when I made the wrong call as a defensive coordinator. It's like we're all working on getting better. So it's not like it's not just me being bad, like, but it's not just the players being bad. He's like it's bad all the way around, and we're working together to get this addressed. Kitley in his area, when we talked about attacking TCU, he said one, their defense, the TCU defense, has multiple fronts, very aggressive, that you need to make good pre-snap reads, need to be able to pick up their different looks and pressures. This is where some of their run creases have come against the TCU defense, is that their pressure has put them in a bad spot. He said we need to be able to take advantage of that. Some of that's going to be blocking better. He also mentioned not overcoaching Brooks. There was a play this past weekend where he was being overly patient and then got tackled in the backfield. He's like, more times than not, that play works out for us in our favor. So like, I'm not going to tell him to be more decisive because he's good enough on his own. Like he doesn't need to be told that. And it will happen occasionally where he is indecisive or waiting on something and it just doesn't materialize. I get that. And I get like Brooks being a senior with all his experience. Like, yeah, you don't want to like micromanage. Like,
Yeah.
really, you need to be like a one read and go guy. It's like, no, like his success, especially with the offensive line, how it's had to come along, you pick the best available spot and you go, not necessarily, well, it was an A gap run, so I'm gonna jam it in the A gap, and if it's there, it's there. If it's not, that's where I was supposed to go. So, of course, he was asked about Micah Hudson because it couldn't be, week 9 in this season. They're still asking about Micah Hudson. He got in the game late in garbage time, made the very widest disparity of freshman plays you can make. Simple pass, hits him in the hands, drops it. A couple plays later, unbelievable one-handed catch up the sideline. It's like, that's kind of the swing you're going to get. But also, he's lining up behind Caleb Douglas. Like, that's the position he's playing. And I don't know if you noticed it, Michael. I'm sure you have because you're a smart football fan.
Thank you.
You pick up on these things. Caleb Douglas has gotten better. He was good to start the year. He has gotten better and he has been more consistent. Those things do not allow a true freshman to break in behind him. He was asked like, well, would you move Micah Hudson to a different position? He's like, why would we throw that on him in the middle of the season? He's at where he's at, and he's just behind an older guy that's doing well and getting better. So it's like it is what it is. Stop asking about Micah Hudson, people. He's going to be fine. Sorry, reading a question. TTU fan here. I'll just put it up on the screen because that's the thing I can do now.
I know. I noticed you doing that.
Our recruiting has been pretty good the last couple of years. How do we get the defense to play so poorly with good players? That's a good question. And it was a point that the Gauchos brought up on Sunday. Like your scheme with DeRuiter should not require a top 10 draft pick to be good. It really shouldn't. If that's a requirement, then you need to change the scheme because you cannot consistently rely on having one of those guys or having that guy on your roster being healthy the entire time and actually performing to those expectations. I think everybody thought Steve Linton was going to be an all-world pass rusher and was not the case for you. He had a decent game against you with Baylor, but he has been just as inconsistent for them as he was for Texas Tech. So, matchup this weekend, 2:30 p.m. Fox. It is mostly sunny, high of 85. Beautiful day in Fort Worth. Probably too hot for the TCU fans to sit in the stands the entire time, so there will be seats available. Whether or not you have tickets, that's on Donati, and whether or not the TCU fans will sell you a ticket. They are led by none other than It's Always Sunny, Sonny Dykes, Michael, in his third season. Has quite the wave. Yeah. Year one, 13-2, made the national title game, 9-0 in Big 12 play, and then follows that up with 5-7, 3-6 in Big 12 play. I couldn't find if this was tracked anywhere, but that's got to be one of the biggest drop offs. Year one, from 1 year to the next, to go from the national title game to then missing a bowl game. This year so far, 4-3, 2-2 in Big 12 play. So 22-12 overall, 14-8 in Big 12 play. It's easy to say like, well, the national title game year is inflating those stats. Well, you could also say, well, like the 5-7 year could just be bringing it down, and this is like it's somewhere between. But he's in his third year. It's early. TCU 65th best home team. Texas Tech 80th best road team. Texas Tech leads the head-to-head series all time, 33-30-3. Texas Tech last wins 23, and then 2018. You lost 4 in a row there between 19 and 22. 3-7 in the last 10. Not very good. TCU,
not great.
Very, very pass heavy. Third in the Big 12 in pass yards. First in the Big 12 in pass yards per game, 331 yards. Texas Tech is third at 292. The defense, Texas Tech defense is last in the Big 12 in pass defense. So yeah. I do not like that matchup. The number one pass offense versus the number 16 pass defense.
Yeah, that worries me.
Their running game does not frighten me, but I'm not going to put all my eggs in a basket and say like we're going to shut down their running game. They're 15th in the Big 12 in rushing yards per game at 100.4 yards per game. Only Colorado is lower. Texas Tech is 8th in the Big 12, so right there in the middle at 167 yards per game. I guess if you could take away like even more their rushing, that would be a positive, but you can't allow them to be really good on the ground. We shall see. They are They pick up fewer penalties than Texas Tech, but they are of larger
They're big ones.
denominations in terms of yardage. Texas Tech is a lot of pre-snap, false start stuff. So you got 54 penalties for 440 yards. TCU 45 penalties for 469. You're at 63 yards per game. They're at 67. Texas Tech special teams 28 of 28 on extra points, 13 of 13 on field goals. TCU is 27-28 on extra points and 8 of 13 on field goals. That's 61.5% field goal percentage, 15th in the Big 12. When they have the ball, TCU, offensive coordinator is none other than Kendall Briles. You want to have a Texas Tech or Lubbock connection, Michael?
Oh,
Here's one.
yeah. There's a good one.
Played at Friendship.
Yep.
So many years ago. Baylor offensive coordinator, QB coach, offensive coordinator, 2008, basically out of high school here, and then went to go coach with his dad through 2016. 2017 was at Florida Atlantic, 2018 at Houston, 2019 in Florida State. Then the next 3 years were at Arkansas, and then the past 2 has been at TCU.
I just had one quick comment. So the on here you have OC Kendall Briles. Does that mean offensive coordinator or officially complicit?
Both. I suppose
Okay.
we could go with both.
Okay. Just checking. Just checking the notes.
Yeah, you could say he was the main enabler of everything that went down at Baylor.
Allegedly.
Josh Hoover, their on-field general, 6'2", 200-pound sophomore quarterback, leading passer in the Big 12 by 0.3 yards per game. But still, he is on the season completing passes at 66%, 2,270 yards, 16 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, a little bit higher than you would want if you're a TCU fan. But other than that, he's not a runner. 21 carries for 38 yards, but has 3 touchdowns. When they are putting the ball in the air, they're looking for a couple of big-time receivers, and they're all old, Michael. Jack Beck, 6'2", 215 senior, 42 catches for 748 yards, almost 18 yards per catch, 7 touchdowns. He's the number 2 leading receiver in the Big 12. J.P. Richardson, 6 foot, 195 senior, 32 catches, 385. So there's a big drop off there between 1 and 2. Obviously, Beck is the number 1 target. 12 yards per catch, no touchdowns. Probably means he's going to get 3 or 4 touchdowns this weekend.
Yeah, I know.
Eric McAllister, 6'2", 205 junior, 18 catches. So even there's a huge drop off there in terms of receptions versus Richardson, but 379 in yards. So it's 21 yards per catch. So we'll kind of hit you for the big one there. 3 touchdowns. And then Savion Williams does a lot of things for them. 6'5", 225 senior, 36 catches, 355 yards, 10 yards per catch, 4 touchdowns. He also has 10 rushes on the year for 84 yards. But their top running backs are Cam Cook and Jeremy Payne. Cook is their number 1 guy, 96 carries, 378 yards, 3.6 yards per carry. Their number 1 running back has fewer than half the yards of Tahj Brooks. 6 touchdowns, a long of 19. Jeremy Payne, 5'10", 180 freshman, 26 carries, 121 yards, 1 touchdown, and a long of 32. They do not have explosive run offense, and they just don't run it very much.
And they're young. They're really young guys, too.
Yep, freshman and sophomore. So 331 yards through the air, 100 on the ground. They are converting 44% of their third downs and 75% of their fourth downs, scoring 32 points per game. They are 4th in the Big 12 in red zone scoring percentage at 90.3%. Texas Tech is last in Big 12 pass defense, 303 yards per game, 164 yards on the ground at 4.8 yards per carry. um, allowing teams to convert 40% of their third downs, 59% of fourth downs. Sorry, 40% of third downs, 59% of fourth downs, giving up a bunch, 32 points per game.
36.
36, excuse me. I was reading the TCU line. 36 points per game, and 85.3% of red zone opportunities are turning into points, which is 10th in the Big 12. Defensively, this is a favorable matchup for Texas Tech, at least somewhat. If you can keep Morton clean and you can, if you can take advantage of some of their aggressiveness against them, Texas Tech offense 26th in S&P plus versus the number 54th defense for TCU. Andy Avalos is their defensive coordinator. It's his first year in Fort Worth. They are disruptive when they get there. 36 tackles for loss, 14 sacks, only 4 interceptions on the season, but 22 pass breakups and 16 quarterback hurries, led by Johnny Hodges. How is this man still playing football? And he's only a junior. 6'2", 240 linebacker, 50 total tackles, 29 solo. Jamel Johnson is a senior, safety. He is second on the team. Young guy, 6'1", 200, but has literally stats in every category. 46 total tackles, so he's second on the team in tackles. 26 solo, 2 passes broken up, 1 forced fumble. Linebacker Namadi Obiazor, senior, 6'3", 220, 44 total tackles, 20 solo, 6.5 tackles for loss, tied for the lead and on the team in sacks at 2.5. There are like 3 guys with 2.5 sacks. He also has an interception and a forced fumble to his name this year. Defensively, they're pretty good against the pass, giving up 162 yards per game at 6.1 yards per attempt, but giving up 164 yards per game on the ground at 4.2 yards per carry. Texas Tech is putting up 293 through the air at 7.1 yards per attempt and 167 yards on the ground at 5 yards per carry. Texas Tech is converting 46% of third downs. TCU is allowing 42. Texas Tech is converting 50% of fourth downs, which is a big jump up from where it was.
Mm-hmm.
TCU only allowing 27% conversions on fourth down. Tech is scoring 39 points per game. That number is continuing to come down a little bit, obviously because you didn't score 39 points this weekend. TCU is allowing 27, but they're good until you get in the red zone. The TCU defense, they are allowing teams to score 90% of their red zone trips into points. That is 15th in the Big 12, where Texas Tech is still first in the Big 12 and red zone scoring percentage at just under 94%. The CFB graphs, if you are a believer in this, I was beginning to be a believer until what happened this past weekend. But if you are a believer in this as a favorable projection for Texas Tech, win probability here for the Red Raiders just over 61%, with about a 4-point margin in favor of the Red Raiders, even here on the road. If you look at the graph and just visually look, like there's a lot of blue, which is positive for TCU, and a lot more red for Texas Tech. But still, somehow this works out. I have my doubts that not all the data has been entered into this that make it right.
Something doesn't feel correct here.
But this was an updated graph because one we found earlier that Michael found had Texas Tech as an 87% win probability with a projected points of 40 to 24. Whereas this one has Texas Tech, like I said, 61.5% probability with a 34 to 30 or 31 type of outcome. I say if the points are, if it's going to be that close, you got a great shot. Obviously, if it's just within 3, I don't believe it's going to be that close. Texas Tech right now, according to Vegas, is a 6-point underdog, over under 66.5. This would be your 3rd time as an underdog. You were a 1.5 against Washington State, 6 points against Arizona. I don't have a specific number here. I've got TCU winning this by a comfortable margin.
I'm going to go a little bit. This just seems like I know when we had Shelby on, we talked about the Big 12 tropes of just all gas, no brakes, or whatever, all offense, no defense. This seems like a candidate for that, just based
Sure.
off how these matchups line up. I don't like that Texas Tech's last place in the Big 12 pass defense is facing the first place in the Big 12 pass offense. That worries me.
Mhm.
And the injuries on the defensive side of the ball worry me. What Baylor was able to do on the ground last week worries me. This is a team that, sure, they're only averaging 100 yards per game rushing, but I was joking earlier, but I'm not really joking. I mean, they're probably going to, they could likely get 160, 180 or something against Texas Tech and, boost their average a little bit. So I'm very down on the defense. I'm not as down on the offense, and most of that is just because it seems like TCU's they're having trouble stopping the run, which has been Tech's strength and Tech's most consistent thing that they're able to do. But who knows? They may just double down and completely stop the run. And they've had a good job stopping the things through the air, and we may not be able to counter that. So I could talk myself into this being oh yeah, 66.5 point over under. Of course it's going to be an over. Or, well, crap, maybe somehow all these things are going to cancel each other out, or Tech's just going to get blown out one way or the other. And I'm coming back down to this. So I'm scrolling back through our picks that we made at the beginning of the year before the season started, and you and I
Mhm.
both we were simpatico on every pick this year, which I think this is the first time that's happened. We both
It was
had Texas.
unintentional because
Yeah,
I think we typically try to like pick against each other, but
yeah. Well, and we pick them separately too, and then just kind of report back while we record. And we were just both like, "Oh crap, okay." Well, anyway, we both had this one as losses in Fort Worth. I think the loss you envisioned in August might be slightly different than what you're envisioning now, but I think I'm going to stick with it. I'm trying not to be reactionary to last week,
oh, I
but
am. That's okay.
well, and that's fine because what we saw last week was doo doo. I mean, why wouldn't you be reactionary to that? That was terrible. Just a complete failure in all facets of the game at home in your own house against a 2-win team. Anyway, I've beat that dead horse. So I'm still going to pick Tech to lose this weekend. I do think the over 66.5, I'm going to peg that to get to be hit.
Hammer
I've got
that. Yeah.
I've got TCU scoring 38 and Tech scoring 31, which I honestly feels optimistic to me at this point. I don't know if this defense can can find much success against a team that's this good through the air, but maybe that's all they have. Maybe that's all they have. Maybe they will hold them down on the ground and force them to throw it. And we've talked about this too on those games where Tech does allow a lot of yards. They shore it up in the red zone, and a lot of times they don't allow those scores. Now, last week was not one of those times, but Arizona was, and there were other instances where that was the case, or they just allow a field goal. That happened against Cincinnati here and there, and Arizona State at opportune times. So there's hope there, but I'm I'm not liking the matchup. I'm not liking playing in a if Tech, and I think we said this on the instant reaction. If Tech can't get up and get ready to play in front of a packed, sold out house in their own barn, what are they going to do in an echoey mausoleum in downtown Fort Worth?
Yeah. So we'll see.
Yes, we will
Let's
see.
look around the rest of the Big 12. I think 38 for TCU is optimistic for our defense. I think 31 for our offense is optimistic. Like it could be. I don't know if I would pick another 55, 59 points.
I could see TCU getting in the 40s if they're able to get through
Easy.
the air, and if Tech's not able to slow down. Gosh, that big senior they have with the almost 800 yards on the season. I think it's church, and it could be ugly. But I'm actually feeling optimistic picking only a touchdown
Yeah.
loss for Tech, but that does have TCU covering, which hurts
Yeah.
a little bit.
Let's do our Big 12 whip around, Michael. Saturday, 2:30, BYU at UCF. The Cougars are a slim favorite. They're on the road, 2 points.
Fun fact: the Lubbockist saw the BYU football truck in Lubbock, Texas today. We're recording on Tuesday. I looked up some logistics of that. Everyone was thinking, well, that's weird. Why would you come through Lubbock on the way to Orlando? But turns out, when you put it in Google and you just say Provo to Orlando, it as you would expect, it keeps you firmly in the Midwest until about Kansas City. You start going down southeast. But if you force it through Lubbock, it only adds 1 hour. So it goes from 34 hours to 35. And the mileage is actually less.
Hmm.
And who knows? There's, like we talked about with Shelby, there's a big BYU soccer game Friday. Maybe they dropped off some soccer balls on the way.
I mean, it's
I don't
possible
know.
that their soccer equipment was also loaded up on the truck and they just dropped it off. Like, hey, can
Yeah.
you guys hold it for a few days? Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about like uniforms and cleats and
Yeah.
yeah,
So anyway,
a few bags of
just an
balls.
interesting thing to see the BYU equipment truck in Lubbock, Texas, the Tuesday before going to Orlando.
Yeah. Give me BYU here to win and to cover.
I think so too. I'm a little bit surprised by this line. I shouldn't be though, because UCF went up to Ames last week and just about stole one. But they are such a unpredictable team.
Yeah.
But I would still take BYU.
Oklahoma State at Baylor. Baylor's getting 5.5 at home. 2:30 on ESPN Plus. I don't know what to make of this one. Is Baylor getting that much respect after beating Texas Tech? Has Oklahoma State really fallen off? I don't know. I think I'm going to take Oklahoma State to cover this, and that's about as far as I'll go.
I'm going to take Baylor to cover. Take Baylor to win and cover. That would
Okay.
make me feel better.
Yeah, Utah -3.5 at Houston. Give me Utah to win and cover. That sounds way too low. I know they're without Cam Rising, but this is a Houston team that is just floating away here.
Yeah, agree.
West Virginia at Arizona. Arizona's getting 3 points at home, 6 p.m. on FS1.
Give me the Mountaineers. Not just to cover, but possibly to win. The Fighting Neil Browns.
I don't know if I have any confidence in Neil Brown in West Virginia at this point.
This sounds like a game they would win.
I need Arizona to help my heart. I need Arizona to win.
Make our win look better.
Yeah. Kansas at Kansas State. Kansas State is 10-point favorite at home, 7 p.m. ESPN2. Did Kansas figure something out this past weekend against Houston, Michael?
No, because it was against Houston. Trick question.
Kansas State to win and cover for me.
Yeah, if it was Kansas State -17, I'd probably still pick Kansas State.
Oh, wow. Cincinnati at Colorado. Colorado 4.5-point favorites, 9:15 ESPN. Yeah, give me Cincinnati. All right, sorry. Give me Colorado.
Me too. I'm tired of picking against Colorado. I think I'm going to have to shut my mouth about them until after, November 2nd or whenever Tech plays them.
I think it's the next week. I think it's the 9th.
Is it?
Arizona State and Iowa State are on bye weeks. So we get Iowa State off of a bye week. Hopefully it treats them as poorly as it treated us.
I know. I'm thinking, well, that maybe that's the play. Maybe they will I don't know. go home and help with the corn harvest and just kind of get out of football mode and then come back and think they're going to roll over little old Texas Tech.
Yeah.
Old top 10 Iowa State. They'll probably, because they're Big 12, I'm sure they'll be like number 11 or 12 next week because they had a bye week and some other Big 10 or SEC team had a much more worthy win than Iowa State having a bye week.
Yeah. All right, that'll do it for us on football. Michael, is there anything basketball related? I know we kind of talked a little bit with Shelby about the Big 12 Media Days today. Season tipping off in 2 weeks. Monday
Yeah.
for the Lady Raiders, and then Tuesday for the Red Raiders.
Yes, we did mention the Lady Raiders game Monday, November 4th versus Incarnate Word, but the men play Tuesday, November 5th. That's their opening day, Bethune-Cookman, 7 p.m. I've thought of one thing. There will be a block party, and I don't know how I haven't mentioned this, but Monday they're doing something kind of cool near campus on Broadway around chimneys and crickets and all that. They are shutting down the street. They're going to have crickets and all that. They are shutting down the street. They're going to have both men's and women's teams out there. I think there's going to be some court set up and like a dunk contest and some other things just for fans to come and hang out with the players and the teams. I think it's at 6 or 7 o'clock.
This upcoming the 28th.
Yes, it's this Monday. So if you're in town, check that out. I think we're going to try to go if we're available, if we've got the evening free, and we're really trying to have that evening free. So looks like a lot of fun, kind of a cool thing that I don't think that they've done before, but a good way to just kind of get folks excited about the season and have the players and coaches and everybody out there. So that I think that is Monday, October 28th, 6 or 7 p.m. You'll have to double check me on the time, those of you who are furiously Googling it right now.
Yeah. Well, I will be in Washington.
That's right.
This time next week. So you'll have to give us the instant reaction to when you come home from that.
I will. I'll be coming in hot.
Since we'll be recording Monday of next week.
Correct.
And then the following week, we'll have an instant reaction to the basketball game as part of our normal episode. So,
oh, that's true.
Get ready for that, I suppose.
Be a lot of us just silently looking at the screen, forgetting to talk, and one of us on a delay.
No, the game should be over. I mean, it's a 7 p.m. tip off.
Yeah, it should be 5th. Over.
If not, we'll be real close. It's Bethune-Cookman. If we haven't put the game away by the time we start, there's a problem.
I just can't believe it. In 2 weeks, basically, when we record, not this episode, but the next, we will have 2 basketball games to discuss.
Yep.
It's here, man.
It's here. All right, let's wrap this up with what did we learn?
What did we learn, Palmer?
I don't know, sir.
I don't know either.
I think I've learned, Michael, that I still am looking for confirmation bias of why this football team isn't any good. I think it was the Abilene Christian really broke me. ACU game. I was like, there's no way that you're going to be any good if you struggle with them. Then you lost game 2. Then the way you won games 4 and 5, where you needed the other team to miss kicks. Yeah, so that's where I'm at. That's where I learned. I'm disappointed and ashamed that I allowed myself to feel optimism that you were at 5-1. You're like, man, you could really do something this year. I feel like such a fool. So,
well, I'm not quite down there. I understand it, but what I learned this week is a little bit more on the food side, a little bit back to where food and sports clash at the goal line here on the 23 Personnel podcast.
It's where we belong.
And I learned of another place where ketchup ended up where it shouldn't have been. And
We talking about
this is
eggs?
no, no. This is thanks to my daughter, and I'm also not talking about corn. I knew someone who used to do that. I'm not talking about tamales,
I love ketchup on tamales. Let's not go there.
but or ketchup on a well done steak.
The steak may need it at that point. Let's be honest.
That was I've shared this, I'm sure, 10 times, but that was how my family we liked chicken fried steak. That was the steak we were familiar with. So anytime anyone in my close family cooked a steak, it was well done because that's just how you did it.
It's
And
rough.
so ketchup was encouraged and needed, and I didn't really know what a real steak was until I got to Lubbock and was treated to some actual steak with my roommate out at a restaurant. And anyway, so here's what my 7-year-old did. We go to Rudy's. Love Rudy's. Kind of her go-to. She really likes the smoked turkey. And
That's pretty good for barbecue restaurants, is getting the smoked turkey.
oh yeah, and that's my wife's favorite too. So, and they give you so much on a sandwich. So usually we just get the sandwich. With sometimes we'll get like a quarter pound of it or whatever. But this time, it just made more sense. Okay, we'll just get her the sandwich, and she eats the bread. She eats the bread. Who cares? Whatever. So she did decide that she wanted to eat it like a sandwich, which is not really her bag. Usually she just tears into some pickles and just eats turkey. But in order to eat the sandwich, Spencer, she opened that bun and she got some ketchup
I don't like this.
and she went to town and put ketchup all over that delightfully smoked turkey, put the bun back on, and really enjoyed that super gross looking sandwich. I was having trouble. I was sitting next to her and I was just
That's
I can't watch this.
that's rough because yeah.
I wanted to get. We had some of the sissy sauce available, and I thought I wanted to try to try barbecue sauce. We keep trying to get her to do it, and she has no interest in it. And I think she is really sensitive to spicy stuff. So even when stuff just has black pepper, it'll kind of get her. Because I've caught myself doing this too, Spencer, which also pains me. When we get brisket, sometimes I will cut off the edge with like the salt and pepper bark because it's too spicy for her. And so then I eat it, but the whole thing is weird. So it doesn't go to waste. Just don't think that beautiful crust goes to waste, but it is just kind of
That's the best part.
sacrilegious.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's not like the crust off a peanut butter sandwich. Like, okay, I get that. And that just goes in the trash. Who cares? Which we don't do that. She's fine with that. But no,
My boys don't eat sandwich crust. It doesn't make any sense.
the seasoning of the brisket, that's some certain aspects of it. She's got to have that. Dad, could you cut this off?
That's rough.
Part of me dies.
Yeah. They
Just,
well, one
just
I've
another place ketchup was found where it shouldn't be. That's what I learned.
I've not made a brisket, so I haven't had that. But ketchup is not a highly sought after condiment in our household. It's ranch with my boys. My middle child.
Such a middle child.
A normal lunch for him that he asks for just about every day is hot dogs and ranch. And not like in a bun. Just a plain hot dog. He doesn't like it grilled. I try to grill it. I try to do it on the Blackstone just to warm it up. Put a little. He'll eat them cold, but he prefers them warm. So I'll just pop them in the white microwave, warm them up, and then put the yucky bottled ranch, like great value ranch on the side, and he'll just eat it up, man.
That's so bad. That is so bad.
Yeah. So,
kids
all
are
right.
gross.
They are. That'll do it for us in the 23 Personnel Podcast. Thanks for hanging with us as long as you did this week. I want to thank Shelby for joining us to help preview and then promote the Red Raider soccer team's shot at a Big 12 regular season title this Friday night at John Walker Soccer Complex, 7 p.m. If you're in town, catch the game. If not, ESPN Plus. At the game in Fort Worth this weekend. See how it goes. For Michael and Spencer, catch you guys next time.
Thank you for listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast. Help us out by subscribing, rating the show, and leaving a review. Follow us on Twitter at 23 Personnel, Spencer at Punt Suck, and Michael at Michael_LBK. Be sure to catch the next episode. And until then, guns up and let the tortillas fly.
Oh. All righty.